Hello everyone, this is Vosen. Today, I will share the effect of this New Year's fireworks effect. Okay, let's take a quick look at the project. There are mainly several launchers. Let me explain. This is the main ion emitter with some light spots. And this is the trailing effect. This is the main ion, which emits ions for launching a firework. This is the secondary particle. The particles produced by the first explosion after it is launched. This level is the particles produced by the secondary explosion. And these are the final particles. Okay. The main thing is to use the actions here, not the questions and actions. This system has been made. And these is actually to control some falling and some dragging feeling like in water. Okay, turbulence, some disturbance, and this restriction, mainly because after adding gravity, it will fall up and down all the time. It can fall to this position. The limit is to make it float in the air more, so that it doesn't sink so much. Okay, let's create a new project. And rotate the radiator. We can change it to a ring here. And shrink it a bit. And change it to a shooting mode. It will launch once every 50 seconds, and only one each time. Its speed, a little faster. Okay, change the display to a line. And give a gradient. Load a preset similar to this kind of fireworks. Change it to speed. About 600 is enough. Okay, this is the default. Back here, add a question. Particle data. To judge the time of the particle. Here, when the particle is generated for a time greater than, for example, when it's greater than 30, then it executes an action. It executes a direct action. Then here is a control for spawning. Add an emitter. Let's see the default effect. Okay, this is the default spawning effect. Here, we adjust its way. Only lay eggs once, because the fireworks, it only explodes once. When it explodes, after the explosion, its original particles can be killed and disappear. Here, reduce the number of, lower it. Returning to the example of spawning, change its parameters, and the speed can be higher. And then there are some random values, and the size can be left unchanged. Okay, timeline and longer time. Now there is a first level explosion. Similarly, we need to add another one. You can directly copy this, including the action system. You can directly copy it. Give this egg laying. This fire extinguisher, not the emitter that lays eggs. Add a question. This question. Delete this one and drag the newly copied action in. Also, check the time of this example. The reason why there are no particles here is that the emitter here needs a new emitter system. Okay, let's put this emitter has been dragged in and drag it into the newly created egg-laying emitter. Okay, you can see, so we have two levels of explosions. For the last emitter here, this emitter must be checked. It has a constant health value. And wait for its health to last for a while. Also increase the speed. Select all these launchers. Change the type here to display. Change it to speed. The interval time can be longer. Adjust the parameters here. The main particles can be raised a little higher. And then there is also a random. The second section of particles, randomly larger. And higher speed. Finally, the speed of this example is also low. Okay, now the speed sense of the next one is similar. Now, there is a problem. It will directly, for example, if it falls down, obviously here, if it is directly. Zoom in a bit. If it were a ground, it will directly explode on the ground. This is not what we want. So we need to add a restriction to limit its distance along the z-axis. This distance. Zoom in. Then, in the first example, exclude this restriction. Okay. Then add a gravity to the hole. Lower the parameter. After the fireworks explode, it will fall slower and slower, because when it gets smaller, it's subject to greater air resistance. So here, we add a drag. Just use the preset of water. And lower the intensity a bit. Map the intensity to its time. And move it back a bit. Eat it. This is only in the last episode. This small particle produces this effect. Okay, increase the number of these particles. Increase the speed of the main particles. And then lower the random value of the second one. Equal to 8. Okay. Exclude this one to remove its restriction, because it will explode in a circular shape. Okay. Here, change the combat time. Change it to his remaining health value. Now it feels like a slowdown, which will feel better. Lower the speed of the second one a little bit. And then move the explosion time forward a bit. Okay, the main ions. Its speed value should be higher. Next, add a swirl to it. It has a sense of disturbance. Make it bigger, and the length should be longer. Okay. The launch is still a bit short. It can be higher. This feeling is almost right. Increase the number of particles generated in the first. Increase a little. The last example, and a little longer. The second one can be made more random, so that the particles spread out more. Okay, now this feeling is almost right. The last one. The random value of this particle should be higher, to give it a sense of layers from the center to the outside. A sense of layers of particles. You can see that from the outside to the inside. There are always particles, instead of leaving a blank space in the middle. Okay, turn it down. It's always, and reduce it relatively. Change the color here to automatic. Try it. Change it back. You can increase it a little more. Drag it here. Increase the intensity a little more. Then increase the number of particles that spawn. Okay, now it feels almost right. A little more. Next, add an angle random to the main particle. and launch them at different offset positions. Okay, now add a trailing effect. Generate here and select Spawn. You can directly create a new one. Then remove all other emitters. And exclude this one. Change it to the main particle. Its health value doesn't need to be so high. About 10, and then a few random ones are enough. It's still a bit cold. Lower it a bit more. Now it feels almost right. Remember to come back here and then check the extended data here. Enable this rotation and change it to tangential. In this way, the direction of the particle will be tangent to the direction of its motion. It will be more consistent. Okay, this is our animation. If you want to add more layers of particles, such as an explosion effect, it's the same. You need to give it. Here's the problem. It's not a problem to copy a particle system here. Just give it to the problem, then copy this action again. And give it to this problem. Delete this one. Okay, and then here, create a new emitter. And lower its value a little bit, because we already have many examples here. Okay, it's stuck now. Because it's already level 1, level 2, second. There are a lot of examples in the second level, so let's lower it a bit. Okay, let's look at the speed. Set it higher. Wait for 12. Okay? So it can explode faster. You can see that, because we give more examples here. It will explode more slowly. You can change the display first. Change it to thank you, and then some random. Change it to gradient loading. This, awareness. Change it to speed. The same goes for spawning. It needs to be excluded. Exclude it. Because this is just the trailing of the main bullet. It's obvious that there is a sense of stuttering. It's because when it explodes here, the speed is too low. Because this season, the gold coin has a speed of over 600, so its corresponding value is also around 600. Similarly, it doesn't need this restriction. It's not a limit. Put the limit into the tail. This is excluded. And then give it a life value. It's because it's a bit fast, so it feels a bit strange. Remember to check the full health value. This speed is not speed. You can increase the number. Okay, the same. This is. If you want to add the fourth explosion, it's the same. You need to copy the problem here, and then duplicate the action, and then recreate the emitter for spawning. Okay, let's take a look at the rendering. Here, we use a beach scene, mainly to look at the rendering of the particles. Particles are mainly used using the color we often use. User data, and read the particle color. And then there is a mapping, and mapped it to a slightly red. A feeling of red, orange, and yellow. Here is a change in range. It's hard to see here because it's greater than 1. Because it's greater than 1, it mainly connects to the intensity of the glow, so that the brighter part in the middle will be brighter. It's this. For example, the middle part is slightly brighter. The particles will be brighter, and then darker, and the particles will still glow, but not as bright as the middle range. And here is the color borrowed from it. This is the rendering of the entire fireworks part. The sea surface is actually here. Sorry. The reflection is a bit strong. A gradient is used to fake a sky. A gradient from white to dark blue. Similarly, here, a black and white gradient is also used and mapped to intensity to create the effect of a brighter bottom. There is a brighter edge and darker at the top. Okay, that's all for today. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for watching.